You talk about how Dizzy came over and that's how you met him, and they tell the story in the movie about your life. And you told me that the one piece of the film that was not so true was the way they treated you at the U.S. Embassy.
Especially the ambassador. They presented the ambassador that he was very nasty to me and asking me weird question and put me in the position, that I was a kind of difficult. That wasn't true at all. But I'm going to tell you something. He told me by the end of the meeting, he said, "You're in the middle of the tour with Gillespie. You don't have to get the asylum now. Why you don't wait until the end of the tour, and then when you finish, it doesn't matter where you will be, you go to the American embassy and they will know everything about it, and then they're going to finish the whole process." I said, I have no problem with that. But they make a mistake. They send a message in one of those code or language or something that they only understand, and send it to the American office, because it wasn't an embassy. It was part of the Swiss embassy. They call it American Interest Office. They send a message to that thing, and the Cuban dictatorship intersected. And they were able to read the whole thing, and they found out that I was asking for political asylum. My wife and son, they were in London, in England, and they sent a message to the Cuban embassy in London to go and find my wife and son. They put it in the plane and send it back to Cuba. Thanks God, my wife and son were in the summer house of my best friend there. He was the owner of the Ronnie Scott Jazz Club. Rest in peace. Pete King. He was a very nice guy. We were very close. Okay. And they started looking for my wife and son, but they couldn't find it. But my wife called me in the middle of the night, crying and yelling on the phone, and said, "Hey, they're looking for us. We are in serious problem here." That's in the part in the movie when I went to Dizzy's room and wake him up. They said, "This, I cannot wait any longer. This is the situation," I explained to him. And then he said, "Give me my wallet there." And then he got the business card, because a few months before, he went in the Air Force One to Namibia, Africa, for the liberation of Namibia. And he was part of the American delegation. And then he got all those business cards. And then he called the White House. And the general picked the phone, and then he talked to me and he said, "What is your concern? What is the problem?" And I explained to him. I said, "Give me the phone number and address where your wife and son are. I'm going to send the car right now to pick them up." And he did it. They came to the American embassy until we were able to travel to New York. By the way, he told me I was in this small town in Italy by the name of Varese. And he said, "Get in the first plane to Rome tomorrow early morning," the first plane. I said, "Okay, I will do it." And when you get there, a car from the embassy going to be waiting for you. I did it. And right when the plane get to the, not even get to the gate, stop in the runway. And then the stewardess came to me. I said, "Hey, wait here until everybody get down the plane." Okay, everybody left. And then a couple of police from Italy came to my seat and said, "Come with us." Then I went down. When I get down the stairs, the car from the embassy was there. They picked me up, and I said, but later on, when they interviewed my sister and a relative there in Cuba, they told them, people from Cuba, they said, "We got 3 agents waiting for him in the airport in Rome, but he didn't get to the airport. He escaped like this, because we were waiting to take him and send it back to Cuba."
So they took you off the airplane before you went inside the airport. But if you had gone inside the airport, the Cubans were going to be there.
Yes, sir. That was like this.
What feeling did that give you about America, the power of the United States, the idea that if the right phone call was made at the right time, they could do anything?
Absolutely. You know what? I love this country. Let me put it this way. I don't believe nobody loves this country more than me. Equally, maybe, I don't know. But more, impossible. Especially because I know, because I suffer in my blood and flesh, and I learn very well the huge difference between freedom and no freedom. And when you really appreciate that and you value that so much as we do, your love and appreciation for the system and for this country, what the country represent to us and what happened in my life. I always said that I reborn when I was 40 years old. When we get to the U.S., by the way, that's the thing I really bothered me somehow, that the movie ends when we get in the U.S. and there a life start. You know what I mean? I hope someday they do the part two,
Mhm.
or at least the documentary or something. By the way, I'm working very hard now for a few months, writing like a book. It's like a kind of uh, we don't want to call autobiography, but it's more or less like that. And I talk about that in the book, that our life started in 1990.
Yeah.
I'm 36 years old now. I'm not 76. I'm 36.
The other thing, just to speak about this moment when your life begins at 40 years old,
Yes, sir.
at that particular moment, Dizzy Gillespie was able to call the most powerful people in the country because he represented some of the best expression that this country had ever created. And he had earned a kind of reputation, political, cultural capital. Those were still times when that was powerful. And it was understood we need to get this artist out of Cuba and into America because the art is so powerful. I love that story. I think it speaks to some of the most important values that I hope are still American. Certainly when you came, they were American, that they said,
Yes,
we need
sir.
this practitioner of self expression and creativity to come here.
Yeah, man. He always said that. And in the movie, he said a phrase. He said, that trumpet that you play, it doesn't belong to only to Cuba. It belongs to the whole world. This was so good to me, man, for so many years. And I'm going to tell you a story which is incredible. When he come back to New York, after he was in Cuba for 48 hours, he started to talk to everybody non-stop about those musicians that he heard in Cuba. At that time, I was playing with the band called Irakere that we put it together in 74. One day, we were doing the rehearsal in the beginning of 78. I think it was like February or March or something of 78. We were doing the rehearsal, and three guys came to the place and sit down there and watched the whole rehearsal. One of the guys was a blonde, blue eyes, very tall guy. And we were kind of intrigued, because who the hell are those people? What are they doing here? When we finished, they came, he introduced himself with a translator because in the band nobody speaks English. And then he said, my name is Bruce Lundwall. I am the president of CBS Record. And I'm here because DC Gillespie don't stop talking about you. And I came to be sure that he was right. And yes, he was right. By the way, I'm going to sign you for 3 years on CBS. He said all those things at once. In June, mid-June, he put us in a plane in Havana, straight to LaGuardia in New York. We get there mid-afternoon. They put us in the little bus and drove us to the sound check at Carnegie Hall. And we played the first day ever in the U.S. We played the second half of the program at Carnegie Hall. The first half was two piano trios, Mary Lou Williams and Bill Evans. And we played the second half. In the last tune, Stan Getz and Maynard Ferguson jumped to the stage and played the last tune with us. Maynard gave me his trumpet because my trumpet was falling apart, and then he said, "What is that?" I said, "That's my horn, you know." He gave me his trumpet. But CBS made a live recording of that and then release an album. And that was our first Grammy. Everything happened the very first day ever in the U.S. And when we look at the front row on the Carnegie Hall, there was Mario Bauza, Tito Puente, Bill Evans. Oh my goodness, so many of the great, great musicians. We couldn't believe it. That was beyond our dreams, you know, that this thing could happen. That was a Sunday night. Monday, late afternoon, Mongo Santa Maria, you know, the percussionist,
Yes.
that I met in Cuba a little before, he called me in the hotel and said, "Arturo, I want to invite you for dinner tonight or something." And I say, "Mongo, thank you, but tonight is Monday night. I want to go to the Village Vanguard because it's going to be Tad Young and Mel Lewis. They play every Monday at Village Vanguard." And he said, "Yeah, let's do that." I'm a good friend of Tad Young. He brought me there, introduced me to Tad Young. I got my trumpet here under my arm, you know. And Tad said, "You play the trumpet?" Mongo said, "Yeah, it's a band from Cuba. They played last night at Carnegie Hall." And then Tad Young said, "You would like to play with us?" I said, "Oh my goodness, yes, I would love to." Okay, I sit down there with the trumpet session, and I play the whole evening with Tad Young and Mel Lewis, the second day ever. That was unbelievable, man, unbelievable. It's something that you cannot even dream with those things that happen in 2 days, you know.
What year was that, do you think?
78, June 78. Exactly a year after Dizzy came to Cuba.
What was it like for you to be able to leave Cuba for those years, those 15 years where you were leaving and coming back and leaving and coming back?
I'm going to tell you, I could have the opportunity way before 1990 to leave, to defect or whatever. I don't like that word, defect. I prefer escape. But I refused to do it by myself and left behind my wife and our son. And I say, no way. I prefer to die here or whatever, or go to jail or whatever, because my situation there with the government was. But I have to wait a few years until the dictatorship make a mistake, a big mistake. They gave us a very, very rare special permission for my wife and son to go to Europe and spend a week with me when I was on tour with Dizzy. That was the opportunity we were dreaming of, you know. And then, of course, we took it. When they arrived there, next morning, when they opened the American embassy, I was there with Dizzy already, waiting there. They opened the place.
You said it was Peter King from Ronnie Scott's. In the film, they invent a different club, and I was thinking as I was watching the film, man, the only club in London that would be this club is Ronnie Scott's. It must be Ronnie Scott's that they're talking about, you know?
And Pete, for a while, was like my manager. Yeah, and he gave me so many jobs in Europe, and he booked me at least 1 or 2 times a year at Ronnie Scott.
Yeah.
For a few years. He was so good to me, man. He was very good to me.
I understand that you say that the character from the embassy in the film, that's the part that's not true.
Yeah.
The character in the film is challenging the Arturo Sandoval personality in the film and saying, but you benefited from Cuba. You benefited from the education and the culture. I understand you're saying that's not true. That's not how they treated me, and that's not how I see it. But
Yeah.
Dizzy says this trumpet does not belong to Cuba. It belongs to the world. But I wonder how you feel about the education. I've been to Cuba a little bit, and my feeling about it was they have no resources other than human resources. They have time. And so maybe the education there was of some benefit to you. I wonder how you feel about the music education that you received in Cuba, and if you feel that there's something unique about that or that cultural environment that created part of who you are musically.
I'm so sorry, man, but that sounds like a kind of a communist propaganda to confuse the mind of the people. Cuba in general is a complete disaster, complete disaster. It's 67 years of a dictatorship with no freedom of any kind, with no democratic election and anything. And the oppression is so hard, man. It's so well organized because that's the best things they could do there to oppress the people, to limit you even in the way you think. You cannot think, you cannot talk, you cannot act, you cannot do anything other than be obedient to what they ask you. In terms of the music came from up there, man. I strongly believe that God gave to every person a little bit of talent to anything. But the bottom line is what you do with that talent. I made a comparison, if somebody give you a rose, a flower, and you go home and put it in the little thing and put some dirt there, and then you put some vitamin and you put some water and you care about, maybe soon you're going to have more roses.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go home with this rose and throw it somewhere, that rose die immediately, in a day or two, gone. It's exactly like this. When God sends you a little bit of talent, because I strongly believe that word talent for me is, I don't know, I'm not a big fan of that. I consider a lot more important your passion, your commitment, your discipline, and your desire to learn. Because I not even went to school. When I started in the seventh grade, the first year of pre-university or whatever they call, that was it. No more formal instruction. What I have been doing all my life is pay attention, open my ear, open my eyes, and try to learn as much as I can from any kind of source.
Yes.
When you want to learn, you will. It's up to you. It's inside your soul, your passion. That thing gonna do miracles. Even English. Now I speak in English to you. I never took a single lesson, ever. I don't even know how to write properly. Since God, we got a spelling checking or whatever. And then I write emails and letters and the spelling, you see all over a red sign, saying, fix this, fix that, fix that. But bottom line, every time I fix a word, I pay attention and say, oh man, my spelling was wrong. Let me correct it. Let me learn how to write correctly. And in general, in life, it's like this. It's up to you what you do with that little talent that God gave you, how you really use that all the way through.
Once you got to the States, did you discover something about yourself musically that you had not been able to discover in the years before? The kinds of projects that you could do, chances that you could take?
I'm going to tell you something. My philosophy of life always has been that whatever happens in the past is gone, it's history. We have no control, zero control. And whatever gonna happen in the future, you also don't have any control. It's in the hands of God. And I hear something that I love it, and I repeat that a million times. It said, if you want to see God laughing very hard, tell him about your plans. And my way of thinking and acting and doing all my life is concentrate in this 24-hour we live in now, because the past is gone and the future is in the hand of God. Concentrate to do your best in every sense during these 24 hours. That's what I do. And now my mind and soul and ear and that is concentrate in what I'm doing with you, and I don't think about anything else. And when I'm practicing, same thing. I turn off the phone, I turn off the computer, I close my door, my wife cannot interrupt me, and then I concentrate 100% is what I'm doing. Those things, sooner or later, pay off. It's your attitude, what you do, how you behave in general, not only as an artist, but also as a human, how you organize your things and your ideas and how you are ready to learn and grow and to think that you are always in the middle of the road. Never let the fame of ego or something go to your brain, because that's very dangerous. Because we always have things to learn, always. If you think that you reached some status already, you are full of shit. That ain't gonna help you at all, because it's always things to learn, and it's up to you, And that's, I swear to God, that's my mentality, man. I want to learn. I get in the internet a lot. When I see any kind of bullshit or AI things created or whatever, I pass over, and I look for true stories. True stories. It doesn't matter about philosophy, history, humanity. Nowadays, we're dealing with a lot of conflict, because we're living in a very difficult time. A lot of controversy, a lot of lack of respect. Also, the thing that I really bother me a lot is, even amongst people in general, but mainly politicians, they talk about each other with a lack of respect. They use their vocabulary and things that are extremely rude and gross. And I say, man, that's kind of new, because before you could have difference, You think that way about this, and I think this way. And the principal thing of democracy is respect other people's opinion. This is mine, just yours. I respect yours. You should respect mine. But nowadays, in the way they talk to each other, man, it's so embarrassing, because you say, man, how come the youngers are watching this, and that's the lesson they're learning, to be so disrespectful and so rude. And unfortunately, we have no solution for those things, and we have to learn how to deal with all this process nowadays, which is a different world, different kind of values, morals, and ethic, all those kind of things. It's a shame, because, my question always, what kind of legacy we're going to left for the next generation, They said, man, that's the way humanity act, that's the way they treat each other. That's so horrible. I'm being concerned about, even if we don't have power to resolve any of those problems, I cannot avoid to get concerned, you know what I mean?
No, of course. You are a musician and you walk on stage and you can say so much just by putting the horn to your mouth. You don't have to say words. You communicate so much with the music, like Dizzy said. On the other hand, your personal story and the way you speak about it, and the fact that you are and have always been willing to speak about your life and your beliefs and your opinions, puts you in a unique position today. And I imagine people are curious to know, what is your feeling about the sentiment today around the idea of immigration and asylum and all of this new conversation that it feels like has changed? The tone of the conversation around immigration and asylum has changed from when you moved here 30 years ago.
It's very tough topic,
I
because,
know.
but what I believe is we all must respect the law. Nobody have any right to get in this country illegally and pretend that everything gonna be good. No, you broke the law, and you have to pay the consequence. And those people with the ICE, talking about ICE, it's complicated. But when they came to you and asked you for your papers or your status or whatever, don't be a nasty, stupid, do things that create a big problem for you. Be smart. And if you are illegal and you have no status and you get here illegal, you have to pay the consequence. I'm sorry, don't break the law. Don't break the law. We must respect the law, the Constitution, the law enforcement. We must respect that. The police stop you for the traffic problem. In the way you act, that's going to decide what's going to happen to you. Maybe you're going to have the benefit of the police said, okay, but be careful, okay, next time. Maybe you're going to have a ticket, or maybe you're going to end out of the car with the handcuff in the way to the police station. It's up to you what you do. You understand what I mean? And some people complain, but review what you did when they stop you, how you act. We have to keep that in mind because we cannot express an opinion or something without knowing every detail on what happened and how that happens and how was your reaction to be absolutely fair. Because when you are a police officer or ICE officer or something, you're working. You're doing what you're supposed to do, You cannot treat those officers with disrespect. You cannot do it. If you do it, attend to the consequence because anything could happen to you. And then some people protest without knowing all the facts, and that's not fair. That's what I believe. I live in this country for 36 years. I never, ever have any problem with any authorities. It's like paying your taxes, If you want to be funny and be a smart ass and then try to violate those kind of things, be ready to get in big trouble. If you want to be out of trouble, do the right things. You have to pay taxes, you have to respect the law, you have to be respectful to everything and everybody, and that's going to keep you out of trouble.
I hear your point very clearly. I guess my final question in this territory is, do you think if you applied for the same kind of asylum today that you applied for 36 years ago, that it would be granted to you? When you left...
For my asylum?
Yes.
I think so. Yeah. Why believe it's going to be different? Because I did it in the formal and right way. I went to the embassy. I didn't try to get through the river or through hiding in back of the truck or something. I went to the American embassy to ask for political asylum. And I got enough reason to do it, and they understood, and they were very good to me. And I don't believe that if that happened now, going to be any different. I don't believe it.
You said this thing a moment ago about how the past is behind us and the future is in the hands of God, and we only have this moment. Even though I love this idea that you say, I was reborn at 40, so I'm not 76, I'm 36. You maybe are a 36-year-old man in the body of somebody who has been alive a little longer, and you play a very physical instrument. And so every day you have to show up and put in the time on the instrument. One thing that I really appreciate about your social media is you show yourself practicing.
Yeah.
And to me, what I feel when I see that is it's a message to all of the musicians, especially the young musicians. Hey, Arturo Sandoval practices every day.
Oh, yeah.
This is me playing. You have to.
I have no choice. Because I believe, it's three different ways to approach the music. Number one, if you love music and you want to play an instrument or sing or something as a hobby, beautiful. But be sure don't lose your day job. Okay, that's number one. Two and three, if you play music in the way you only can, or you play music in the way you want, it's a huge difference there. The division here, the thing that separates this to this, is your passion, your discipline, your commitment, and you know what I mean? And to be sure that if you don't practice diligently, you don't going to be able to play in the way you want. You have to be conscious of that. And that made a big difference because that made you to belong to a select group of people who really care and people who really take it seriously, very seriously.
Maybe it makes you confront the moment every day also because you have to go again and show up today. Doesn't matter what happened yesterday, doesn't matter what happened
Absolutely.
tomorrow.
Absolutely. Yeah. Nobody care where you play last night and how you play. Show me the thing tonight. I'm here. I pay my ticket to hear you tonight. And we have to be conscious of that. And when you jump to stage, you must be sure that you are prepared. You're ready for that.
Yeah.
And you did your effort, you did your best to be ready for that gig. Trumpet is a tough instrument, is the worst. I play the piano too, and the piano is completely different. It's a lot more novel, a lot more friendly. Sometimes I cannot play the piano in a few days and I sit down and I can go over. That's no problem. That's not a situation with the trumpet. The trumpet don't give you a break, my friend. No, it's a tough instrument. Beside the intellectual part of the thing, it's a physical thing that you have to constantly take care of that because otherwise you can lose like this. And are we talking? I got my horn over here, all the time, all the time. Even when I watching a movie or whatever, I got my horn and I put the mute, that is called a silent mute, and then I am able to listen to what I'm listening or watching or whatever. But in the meantime, I'm practicing. It's up to you. You belong to the group of people who are full of limitations, or you belong to the group of people who really play in the way they desire and the way they want.
What do you notice as an educator seeing young musicians today? The world is so different today to become a professional musician, and you have so many students, so many people learning the music, not so many gigs. What do you see for the future of the music?
You know, I think it's no fair or it's no good to generalize. It's individual cases. It's up to you. How big is your passion? How big is your dedication? And how much you love music and how good you want to be. And when that happens, nowadays it's a bunch of young people extremely talented. And they develop such an skills that are impressive. It's something unbelievable. And some of them, they play so because they don't care that much. It's a matter of individual, You can put everybody in the same sack.
Yes.
Because it's not fair, It's not easy. Because to please everyone is impossible.
Yeah.
Sometimes you play this way, that way, whatever, and you convince some amount of people, but other criticize you and say, I don't like that or whatever. People complain even to God. Who the hell are you to don't get affected by the reaction of some people,
Yeah.
And also, it's not good that some people masquerade behind the thing with the false name or whatever to criticize others. My way of thinking always has been when the people criticize you or something, you know what I think about? I say, okay, I hear you. You know what I'm going to do? My answer to you going to be, I'm going to practice a little harder. I'm going to try a little harder. I'm going to try to be a little better. And probably that's going to bother you because you have to keep in mind that some people are extremely jealous, insecure, and envy, all those kind of things. Unfortunately, this is a little tough topic, but I'm a Latino, a farmer from the countryside, an island of the third world. Sometimes we don't have the kind of recognition from some people. We cannot generalize, We have to go by different cases. But you have to be aware of that too. And my answer always is, I'm going to practice a little more. I'm going to try to do a little better next time. That's my reply to those people. And I'm sure they're going to feel worse after that. That's my revenge, that's my revenge. They say, you offended me, you criticize me, and you be nasty and rude. Okay, I'm going to try to be better,
Yes.
to make you feel worse.
And it's true. I mean, I think that this is a story that has been told by many people who experience a certain degree of prejudice or criticism like that. As you say, you just have to be better. You just have to be even better.
That's the best answer to those people.
So tell me about the band that you're playing with now. And also, I understand you have a new record called Sangu.
Yes, sir. Going to be out in the beginning of March. It's very something extremely special about this album because my son and his wife, by the way, she's my manager for many, many years. They came to our house months ago and they say, man, you know what? We have an idea. We want to produce your next album. I said, what? They are no musician at all. They have no experience within the music at all. I said, what are you talking about? I said, yeah, man, you need to renew your repertoire and your things. You have to do different things or whatever. We got some ideas and blah, 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 blah. And I said, man, what the hell? Those people don't have a clue what they're talking about. But I was wrong. They really knew exactly what they want. And this is the first time ever in my life that some producer told me what to do, how to do, when to do. I said, what the hell, man? In the beginning, I was like a kind of, not angry, but a little, man, I make a little resistance. But when I find out that they really were very sure of what they want, I did whatever they asked me. And the result is great, man. The album is amazing. It's so good. It's so good. I can't wait to the release. I hope that the people are going to enjoy the album a lot. It's 12 different brand new tunes, all my composition. And you know how they pick up the repertoire? When the pandemic, I was here for 2 years or something, like everybody else. And I was so frustrated. And then I started doing videos. 1, 2, sometimes 3 a day of new tunes. Because I was so frustrated, I said, man, I have to do something to come out of this, the whole bullshit, and I have to do something. And that was what I did, I started to do new composition, and I recorded here at home by myself, rudimentary, with straight to the phone or whatever. But I didn't care. I want to keep in contact with the audience. I want to use my time in something productive and don't feel frustrated and sad because that doesn't help at all. And they went to my pages and they picked like 100 of those things. And they asked me, we have to pick among this list 12 tunes that you want to do. And then we rearrange and we add some things and change this and change that and organize those things in the most professional way, And when we did this is a funny thing, when we hear back the first track, I said, sound good, man. And then they look each other, they laugh, and they wrote it down, SANGU with the accent, U. Yeah. And they laughed and said, what is funny? He said, whatever you said. He said, what I said? They said, what you said? I said, it sounds good. They said, no, you didn't say that. You say sangu. Because of my accent, whatever. And they said it fast, sangu. They named the album like this.
I love it. That's a great story. That's a great story.
It's a funny thing.
Arturo, this is such a pleasure to speak to you. I spoke to you maybe one of the first interviews I ever did when I was in the university writing for the student newspaper. I spoke to you 30 years ago.
Yeah,
and I
man.
hope it's not another 30 years before I talk
Oh
to you.
man, I hope no. I won't be here.
You're only 36, man. You get a lot.
Oh yeah. All the best, brother.
Thank you, Maestro. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye, man. Thank you.